Welcome into episode 356 of the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball and recruiting podcast on the growing KSR podcast network, presented by Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. I am your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined once again by the one and only Sean Smith of Frederick Douglass. Is this basketball? Sean, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic, Jack. I'm more interested to know how you are coming off of that Mark Pope Kentucky basketball head coaching debut in an exhibition win.
I'll let you know when I'm coming down from it because I'm still cloud nine, sky high. It's weird. It's a really difficult position to be in, Sean, because when you win a game 123-52, play the way that you do in a 71-point victory, you have those two absolute extremes in your head of it's a 71-point win, and I don't give a damn who it's against. 71 points is 71 points versus it's an exhibition game. You got to understand that you got to keep the expectations the same. You got to, don't get too high, don't get too low, finding that balance of just understanding how significant it is. Like what is the significance of a win of that magnitude to win and execute the way that they did, and just the how beyond all that. And that's why we're bringing you on. And that's why we're so excited to bring you on, because everything that we talked about with the video game numbers and the just the style of play, the high efficiency, high volume mindset where we're going to gun, if you're not taking shots, you're getting pulled, and having it turn into a product where you put up 123 points in a 40-minute regulation basketball game where you take 42 three-pointers and make 21 of them with 11 players scoring, and 8 of those players scoring in double figures, Sean. It's hard not to get carried away with something like this. So I need you to put your coaching hat on and talk me through something like this.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like we don't have to sit here and talk about the opponent. We don't have to sit here and talk about things are going to get tougher. We all know that. We know that every single season when you go through the exhibition schedule and into the season opener, and when you get to the Champions Classic, the games are going to get tougher as you go. But it was more so about how Kentucky just looked doing their thing, right? Like the ball movement, the shooting the ball, the playing the way that they want to play and establishing it in an exhibition. I know that Kentucky Wesleyan's not the most, complicated opponent or something to kind of prepare for, but I don't know how much scouting goes into these exhibitions, Jack. Obviously, you have to watch film from the previous season and things, and I know that that's what Kentucky Wesleyan did to prepare for Kentucky, was watch BYU tape. But at the end of the day, the ball was moving. Kentucky was making shots. Their defenders that we went into the season believing that they had showed some flashes of just how good they can be. I mean, Lamont Butler is going to disrupt you 90 feet every single night, and just with his physicality. But overall, like in the team notes last night that Kentucky puts out, Kentucky made 21 of 42 three-point shots. Had it been a regular season game, UK would have tied the school single game record in the debut for Mark Pope. And then when you go down, how ironic is this? 32 assists, only 5 turnovers. The 32 assists are only 3 short of the official school record of 35 in 1996. So how fitting is that?
What a year. Yep, very fitting.
So I just think that when you look at those things, regardless of who they played, Jack, when you win a game by 70+, you're doing something right. And I think that Kentucky did a lot right, and a lot that they can build on going into that. Certainly they have things they need to work on, but I think they feel good about where they're at right now.
And here's the interesting thing, because we talked to Colin Chandler and Amari Williams on Tuesday leading up to the matchup, and you ask them, like, hey, how do you prepare for somebody like this when you yourselves have never played a game together? This is a brand new team. What does a scout look like for that? But to their credit, and it's a good exhibition game to have, because this is a team that they lost their leading scorer from a year ago, but did return 2 through 5 in terms of leading scorers. conference coach of the year that they're bringing back. So you're getting some different things where it's returning experience. There is something to scout because a lot of these guys were on tape within this offense, in this system with Kentucky Wesleyan. So it gave them a chance to kind of put together a mock scout and film and go through a typical game day, in lead up and pregame and shoot around and kind of go through the typical game day operation, which is good. That you wanted to kind of get their feet wet and let them understand what the day-to-day looks like during the season. And the result wasn't what you wanted. You had the head coach of Kentucky Wesleyan apologizing for not giving Kentucky the challenge they maybe wanted or expected. But I still think when you talk to Colin Chandler before the game and he says, oh yeah, we have film on our phones. We have a scout that was sent to our phones with the film and the numbers and the analytics and all the stuff that it's on us to study and prepare for leading up to this game. That's what you want. You wanted that type of just to know what that looks like. And I don't want to beat a dead horse and keep bringing up old wounds and reopening those old wounds. But the last staff just refused to scout on a game by game basis. If you didn't have the video guide leading the charge every single game, it just wasn't getting done. It was malpractice. The inconsistency in the effort put in from a scouting perspective and with the video and the tape and the film and all that, the effort just was not there. So to see this new staff go to the great lengths that they did to put together an excellent scout for Kentucky Wesleyan, that's what you want to see. You wanted to see that type of execution, no matter the opponent, to be as well-rounded and prepared as they could possibly be going into an exhibition game. If they're doing this level of preparation for this, I can't wait for Duke. I can't wait for Gonzaga and Clemson and just go down the list of when we build up more film and game tape on the season. This is exactly what you're looking for. I thought they executed a game plan to perfection, and that was just about as important as anything to me coming out of the 71-point win.
And it doesn't shock me that they were that prepared, because to me, Jack, film to court is one of the most important areas of the game. Like, you've got to be able to take what you see on film for yourself after games when you watch and say, okay, we got to clean up these areas of what we do. And then you got to take it and you got to apply it to the game and to the floor, whether that be in practice or the next opponent. Kentucky did that. I think this staff is always going to check off boxes when it comes to game prep and all the areas that they need to do. And you see the bench over there, like it's full of guys. I mean, Nick Robinson's sitting there in the first chair, and all the way down to, Mark Fox, and you got Leander Ridgway there as well. I mean, there's so many people that are involved in what's going on in a game, and I'm not sure what their individual duties are in those 40 minutes, but you can tell that every one of those guys have a task that they're doing that is immediately helping Mark Pope. It's helping the guys on the floor. I think Kentucky did an excellent job being prepared, and I think that you're going to see them improve in that area as the season goes along, as they get more games together, they get more days and more practices and more film. But for an exhibition, Jack, to come out and move the ball the way that they did, they're sprinting to corners in transition. How many guys did you see getting to that deep corner? There was one play in the first half where Lamont Butler's coming up the floor. I can't remember who the 5 was. It might have been Brendan Garrison. Got to the rim, somebody got to the corner, and we had a cross-court skip pass to Jackson Robinson for a 3 in transition. That is discipline in transition, getting to your spots and creating early offense. And it's only exhibition number 1. So seeing them be that crisp in those areas, that's really encouraging. And I think obviously they can build on that and they can get even better, because what they are right now is not what they're going to be in 2 months. It's not what they're going to be in 4 months.
So the numbers of the win and what history tells us about exhibition games, because it's very easy to say it's an exhibition. It means nothing. There's no context behind, you expect to win these games by 50 plus. Like it just is what it is. But when you look at the, historic sample size of the biggest margins of victory in Kentucky basketball history, there is a correlation between dominant exhibition wins and dominant Kentucky basketball teams. So I want to run through some of these numbers and some of these different teams that kind of make you feel something. Like it reminds me a lot of, dominating in the summer league for NBA players, where it doesn't mean necessarily much of anything if you're dominating. Like it's not a direct correlation between playing well in the summer league and then turning into an excellent pro. But there's a larger sample size of guys who do dominate in the summer league becoming dominant pros versus the guys that stink in summer league. Like there's a greater sample size of guys that play well to start with early and often and then go on to become great pros than guys who stink in the summer league and then somehow turn it around and figure it out to become great pros. You want every opportunity handed to you to play well. Like you just that's expectation. So that's kind of my mindset with exhibition games, where it's not a tell-all with everything, but you would prefer them play really, really well versus play really, really bad. So looking at some of these numbers, our friend Corey Price of UK Athletics put together a list of the 6 times in Kentucky basketball history that UK has scored 120 points in an exhibition game dating back to 1985. Pretty solid sample size to work with there. That is a run that includes all Elite Eights, 6 for 6 on Elite Eights, 4 for 6 on Final Fours, and 2 of those leading to national championships. The 94-95 team, which went to the Elite Eight, did it. The 95-96 team obviously won the national championship. 2010-2011, the Brandon Knight team went to the Final Four. The 2012 national championship team did as well. 2014-15 undefeated team scored 120, and then the 2016-2017 De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and Bam Adebayo team went to the Elite Eight after scoring 120 in exhibition play. Then there's also a list of the all-time margins of victories with Kentucky in exhibition games, and it was 3rd all time in the history of Kentucky basketball, where you go down that list, and 93-point margin of victory, that 2016-17 team, pretty damn good team. 2011-12 beat Morehouse by 85. 2014-15 beat Georgetown College by 69. 2010-2011 Brandon Knight team beat Dillard by 68, and then the John Wall 2009-2010 team beat Clarion by 65. So it's not a perfect science, but in a vacuum, really good teams beat the hell out of their exhibition opponents.
That's really good company, right? Like when you started reading off all those teams, you've got national championships, Elite Eights, like the areas of March Madness where Kentucky wants to go. There's the common denominator between doing what they did last night and what those teams did on their way to getting to those points. So no, like certainly you can overthink exhibitions. Like you can get it like, okay, we're really, really, really good, or maybe you're really, really, really bad. You're probably somewhere in the middle of whatever happens. But it's just the way that they play the game. And a lot of people, asking like, man, what'd you think about the Cats? What'd you think about what they were doing? Man, their scheme is so good, Jack. Their offensive scheme is so good in what they do. There was some defensive possessions too that I thought just looked like that they've got some pieces there. Lamont Butler got beat baseline on one, but there were 3 really good closeouts on that possession. Lamont gets beat, and it was in the first half, and I think it was in the first 8 minutes or so. He's beat, but he physically works his way back into position and forces, and there was great help came over. I can't remember who the big was that rotated, and they ended up getting a deflection out of it and a turnover. All because he just physically imposed his will as a guard to get back in front and establish position. And I think that this team's going to have some areas where they can be really good defensively. Another thing that I thought I liked last night, the big-to-big passing from Mari Williams to Andrew Carr, like the bigs moving the ball out of the post, skipping the ball all the way across the midline to the other end of the floor. Like having bigs that can also see the floor and make plays is going to help what Kentucky does schematically, offensively, with these back cuts, these twirls, these zoom actions. So much good stuff, Jack. But when you look at it, beating a team by 70, regardless of who it is a big step. But when you can compare it to history, and some of the other great Kentucky teams have done that, I think it bodes well for you moving forward. At least gives you confidence as a fan base.
Well, let's run through some of these stats and just kind of dig in a little deeper on how this unfolded. We have Jackson Robinson leading the way with 19 points on 7 of 12 shooting, 5 of 9 from 3, followed by Otega Owe, who we talked about as a potential sleeper on this team in our preseason predictions. He finishes with a second team leading, scoring 18 points on 7 of 9 shooting. He was terrific on the glass, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, and 1 steal in 18 minutes. So got a lot done, but without playing a ton of minutes. And then we got Ainsley Almanor coming in after what I thought was kind of a letdown performance in the blue-white game. He goes and bangs 5 threes on 7 attempts to go with 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. I thought that he played really, really well, was very active, got a block in there as well in 20 minutes. Then we get Kobe Brea with 13, Amari Williams and Trent Noah with 12, Lamont Butler with an unbelievable all-around performance, 11 points on 5 of 8 shooting to go with 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 steals, and 2 blocks. He finished with more steals than the entire Kentucky team finished with turnovers with 5. Just an unbelievable stat there. And then Andrew Carr rounds out the double-digit scores there with 10. So, Sean, just in terms of those numbers and individual takeaways, I had nobody finished with over 20 points. Thought that was interesting. Nobody played more than 25 points or 25 minutes. But it was such a balanced effort. Like I said, 11 guys scoring, 8 finishing in double figures. Everybody just kind of contributing in their own way without having to do too much. I talked about this on the Rapid Reaction afterward, but you don't want to throw around the stupid platoon word. But it did just kind of have this feel of the tanks rolling over the hill, where right when you start getting one unit figured out, they bring in the next level of reinforcements. And it was just this constant barrage of shooting and scoring and defense. And it was like different little identities of teams with Amari, Lamont, and Otega on the floor at one time, where it wasn't necessarily the best shooting lineup, but they were just dogs on the defensive end, and had better athletes and things like that. And then there's the lineups with Kobe, Travis Perry, Colin Chandler, Andrew Carr and Brandon Garrison. You're like, whoa, this is a dynamic shooting lineup, blah, blah, blah. So so many different individual identities with this team that I thought was really interesting, seeing the lineups kind of come together a little bit throughout the game.
And I think that's the one thing you want as a coach, right? You want to have options. You want to be able to say, okay, I can mix and I can match. I can add some shooting. I can get some defense. Do some of my best defenders, are they also some of our best shooters? Now, I don't know exactly what Kentucky has in those areas yet, but the one thing across the roster, Jack, is you're always going to have dudes on the floor that can shoot the thing. Like, you're seeing that. Like, there are multiple spots on the floor that can light you up from three-point range. I mean, Kentucky as a team hit as many threes as Kentucky Wesleyan made field goals. Like, 21 made threes for Kentucky, 21 made field goals for Kentucky Wesleyan. Like, that stands out to it in itself. So you're right, though, when you're looking at the balance, and you don't want to throw the word platoon around, and I don't think that that's going to be thrown around, but when you look at it, Mark Pope put guys in. He put them in early. Like, Colin Chandler's in early in the first half. Travis Perry's early in the first half. Like, he's giving guys a realistic look. That is something that we really haven't been used to in the last few years, is seeing some of these guys. Now, Trent obviously didn't play a ton of minutes, but boy, did he make himself known while he was. I mean, it probably gets him a few more. When you go in and you do that, you're gonna get another look at yourself when you go 4 or 5 from 3. But I texted you last night about Ainsley Almanor. I said, how about him? Like, making shots and doing his thing. But the balance, Jack, in minutes played, the balance in scoring, the balance in assist. Amari Williams was 6. Lamont Butler there was 6. How about Lamont's overall stat line? Just impacting the game in so many areas for Kentucky. When you've got veteran guard play that can do that, and he's going to do that not just to Kentucky Wesleyan, he's going to do that to LSU. He's going to do that to Missouri. He's going to do that to Texas in the league. Like,
and he has. He's done it en route to a national championship game. Like, I think that's the most exciting part of watching him play and operate and process the game defensively, is knowing, like, whoa, he's done it at the highest level. And this is not just kind of false hope of, is Trent Noah going to come into a game this season and bang 4 threes in a row? I would love to see it, but there's not a sample size to justify that, justify that as an expectation. Lamont Butler doing that exactly what he did in that matchup. There is a massive sample size of him doing it at literally the highest level in college basketball, the national championship game in the Final Four. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
There's an entire career of him defending at a clip that he does and making plays. He touches the paint so easily. But it's, to me, Jack, just getting to see him in the blue-white game and now in an actual matchup, it's his physicality that he plays the game with at his position. You don't get a lot of physical point guards. Like you get your quick point guards, you got your point guards that can shoot the ball well. But to me, just the way he's built, especially on the defensive end of the floor, there was one steal where I can't remember who it was, but it was a Kentucky Wesleyan guard. It was kind of right in front of Kentucky's bench. And the next thing you know, Lamont's just like physically imposing his will, and the ball's poked away and he takes off for a dunk. Like, it's just his instincts, but it's his strength. And I think that when you're talking about pound for pound, one of the strongest players on the team, he's one of them. Amari Williams is another guy that's just super strong, that's going to be able to impact the game defensively. Now, one thing, too, that Kentucky did, they did give up some back cuts. And I think that's something that you'll see improve. Obviously, Kentucky Wesleyan, they're playing modern. They're trying to spread you out and do some things with maybe a Princeton style of play to get some of those back cuts. And you're susceptible to, when you're lifted like that at 5 spots on the floor, the same thing Kentucky does to teams. They were trying to do some of those similar things. But I think that overall, Jack, I saw enough on the defensive end of the floor to think that this team can really build on it, especially team defense. And then the way that they score the ball and run in transition, man, I promise you, you said it the other day, talking about 100 plus or 110 or 100. Like, you threw out numbers, I'm pretty sure, on the last episode of some games where they're going to get up there. They're going to do that a lot. I think that this is a team that's going to be able to score it at will. But when you're this old and the way that they just are connected, like, I thought the ball was moving to the right spots at all times. Like, early in the game, Andrew Carr passes up a shot and gets a one more to take it away in the corner for a corner three. Like, that's unselfishly giving up the ball by a super senior. Like, you can tell these guys like playing together already. I can't wait to see where they go from here, though, and build on it, because this to me is just going to be something where they get more and more comfortable with one another. And you still haven't even factored in Kirk Chrissy yet.
And that's something that, I mean, and just hitting on that real quick, being there, watching him warm up and seeing him sweating his tail off and clearly looking ready, a guy that I think if the game mattered, I'm not trying to, discount Kentucky Wesleyan, but in a game that mattered, I think Kerr is playing. He looked really good. He looked like somebody that was preparing for a regular season debut here, probably missing the next exhibition game and then making his debut against Wright State, which I would prefer that way. I mean, if you're able to beat a team by 71 points as is, while knocking down 21 threes on 42 attempts and dominating the way you're able to, I say, Kerr, wait as long as you need to, bro, because we're going to need you at some point, but right now is not that time. Get ready, get better, heal up that hamstring just a little bit more just in case, because things are rolling just fine right there. So definitely no long-term concern. Watching him with my own 2 eyes, Kerr looked absolutely just fine. Somebody who is going to be playing sooner rather than later. Wouldn't be concerned about that whatsoever. But I do want to just talk about just the shooting production in a vacuum, but just overall, when you have that level of efficiency and that level of shot volume, the 35 number was thrown out so often this off season. That's our expectation. We're going to be a run and gun team. We want to let it fly. You talk to the players afterward, and they were like, if you don't take shots, Pope will pull you. Like, he doesn't care if you miss shots, but if you are in position to take them and you don't, your butt is going on the bench. That's just how Pope operates. So is that part sustainable? Sean, what is the expectation for you? Because going 50% on high volume the way that they did, is that something that we could expect every single night to have, 2 for 2 from Ortega, 1 for 4 from Lamont, 5 for 9 from Jackson, 3 for 5 from Kobe, 4 or 5 from Trent, 1 for 4 from Travis Perry, 5 for 7 from Ainsley Almanor? I mean, literally spreading the love quite a bit from that group with 7 different guys hitting threes. Is that something that you are personally expecting once the season gets rolling?
I mean, 50% every single game. That's certainly hard to get to. But the one thing that helps, Jack, is it feels like with every lineup, like what I was saying earlier, there are at least 2 spots on the floor, maybe even 3, that really can confidently knock down shots at an individual clip of maybe 36, 35% or more from 3. Like Kobe Brea, had a couple of quick ones last night. One off an offensive rebound where the ball's in his hands and boom, it's through the bottom of the net. Like, they've got guys that can take and make shots. Every team in college basketball has guys that can take them. Not everyone has guys that can make them. But Kentucky's got plenty of them that can. And
I've heard that saying.
No. But Kentucky's got plenty that can. I think a realistic number for this team is, I think you're going to see a lot of games where they're above 37, 38% as a team from 3. And if they're doing that and taking the number, to me, it's more about taking the number than it is making the number. If they're going to take 35 plus a game, they're going to be hitting anywhere from 14, 15, 16 a game, in my opinion. And if they do that, it's about getting the shots and getting that volume and number taken, because as you take more, I think Kentucky's going to make plenty. And this isn't a team that's trying to catch up, right? Like, you're not taking shots just to, man, we got to have threes, we got to have threes, we got to have threes, we got to have threes. This is just a team that's doing it within rhythm of their offense and what they're running. I mean, these quick singles that they're running out of transition, where they're just single away screens and guys step into the ball. And the thing that you're going to see over the next few games, you saw it a little bit last night, those quick away screens, Jack, that we talked about on film, where Jackson Robinson step into the ball in the middle of the floor. If he's not got a shot, man, he's getting downhill, or they're twisting it back and rescreening and making contact, and they're getting downhill, and you got 2 corners standing there ready to fire. You got a big roll into the rim. Like, for where they are offensively, of just being comfortable with one another and getting to spots and disciplined in doing it, I promise you, go back and watch every single transition that they had in the first half, and you'll see guys getting to the deep corner to sprint to get there. Staying disciplined and doing those things in transition, Jack, will get you the looks of Jackson Robinson stepping in cross court from Lamont Butler, or kicking it back to Andrew Carr trailing in transition, or Ainsley Almanor getting a kick out as well. Like, there's just so many ways that they can get these shots, that I think what's going to happen is it's going to open things up for these back cuts. It's going to open things up for Lamont Butler, Ortega Oweh, and even Amari Williams and these guys in the post. I just think there's a great balance on the offensive end of the floor, and you saw it last night.
And I want you to, I'm seeing if I do this right. I'm producing on the fly. See, I'm trying to expand my my versatility with here. I'm trying to take Daniel and Steven's job here.
You're a two-way player.
Hey, call me the Lamont Butler of sources say hosts and producers. Let's see if this works. Nah, not my best effort, but that's all right. Just look at the shot chart there, and as a coach, what does that say to you?
Though there's no bad shots when it comes to the areas of the floor that you don't want to take them. How many long twos do you see right there, Jack? When you're looking?
2 beyond the 3. I guess you got the right elbow jumper on the right side, and then the 8-footer on the left side of the floor. But beyond that, it is free throw line, inside the paint, or at the 3. That there is nothing in between.
It's clean, and it's very clean, and you're getting a lot at the rim. You're getting a lot from the perimeter, and it's balance from the perimeter too. And a lot of those wing shots are the ones that I'm talking about, where you got a great rim runner, you got guys getting to the corner in transition, and you got that cross court fire to somebody stepping in, and more often than not, it's going to be a guy that can step in and take them and make a shot. So the balance that we're talking about in assists, the balance that we're talking about in points, the balance in shooting, the 3-point numbers, it's all going to be a reflection of what you see on that shot chart. And when you look at that shot chart, you don't really need to know a whole lot else, because that kind of tells the tale about what Kentucky is wanting to do from a philosophy standpoint offensively. And I know last summer, me and you, or the summer before, we talked a ton about shot charts because we saw what shot charts look like under John Calipari, and then you had kind of a movement to look more like that. The thing is, that's what it's going to look like every single night for Kentucky. And I know we talked a lot about Amari Williams' game and what would it look like offensively with not being able to shoot. He sees the floor so well
6 assists
at his position, sees it so well. He leads. Like, there was one play early in the game where something happens and he's leading the huddle. He's getting guys to come in. Like, when you have older guys that have gone through the fire at a previous school, some of them previous schools, when you get them here and you get them to a place like Kentucky, Mark Pope, I'm telling you, this is an easy transition because these guys know how to play the game of basketball. Are they the most talented players in the country? I don't know. But when it comes to the most polished and guys that have just been and seasoned and gone through the game of college basketball, Jack, that's why you're seeing this offense, I think, kind of move at a clip already in October. That, and I get it. People in the comments are going to say, it's Kentucky Wesleyan, guys. Y'all are overreacting. We're not sitting here saying this is going to be a national championship run. We're not sitting here saying it's going to be a Final Four, but the blueprint for what you're wanting to see offensively, it was there. And it was evident that they're established what they want to do. And I really like some of the things I saw defensively as well.
What was our take leaving the blue-white game? I said, I don't know how great they're going to be. I don't know if this is a team that's going to win a national championship, but I know it's a good basketball team. I know this team has the tools and the makeup and the system and the style of play to win basketball games at a high level. What does that run look like? Again, they're going to beat the teams that they're supposed to. I feel going back to Pro Day when we left and said, I'm not overwhelmed, I'm not underwhelmed, I'm just whelmed. You kind of know exactly what to expect with this team, where you know you're going to get their best shot offensively. You know the style of play, the system is going to be in place where they're going to have clean looks and the ball movement is going to, I think, drive opponents crazy, and the fatigue is going to be a real issue for teams trying to defend this system, that it's going to just organically beat teams. I mean, guys that just aren't, as just in a vacuum, aren't as conditioned and just don't have the mental capacity to keep up with this type of offense. You're going to beat those teams. In the straight up talent differential, that might be where we could get some slip ups. But I think just in a vacuum, this team is going to beat everybody that they're supposed to. I just don't envision a scenario where this team, with, again, how well prepared they were, what the execution looks like, and what the system in place is going to lose to a UNC Wilmington. I just don't think that they have the capability of losing those types of games. Are they going to lose against Duke? Will they lose to Gonzaga, Clemson, Ohio State, Arkansas, Tennessee? Go through the list of those programs. The name brand schools on the list. Those are going to be the toss up. We'll see what happens. For my money, I think they're going to beat those teams more often than not, but you're not going to have any of those what the hell happened there slip ups that can really derail you from a quad one standpoint, from a those quad 3 losses that really just tank your resume whenever it comes to Selection Sunday. You're not going to get those black eyes on the resume. How many quad ones are they going to stack up? Those are the questions that I still have, but I have no doubt that this is a good team that's going to beat the teams that they're supposed to en route to a pretty darn good season. We'll just see what the upside looks like, because Colin Chandler looks better, farther along than I expected. We'll see, the depth I think we weren't giving enough credit for. We'll see about the other things. We just need to see this team play more. But in a vacuum, I know this team's a really good basketball team, and I expect them to make a run.
I do too. And, some of the things defensively that you see, and you got to see it especially early, you got to see a little bit of a 2-2-1 that did cause a 10-second count
That was
right there
beautiful.
early
I
in the
love that.
game. And just, and then I think the ability to add a little bit of token pressure just to maybe
Wrinkles.
slow some teams down. You get Lamont Butler guarding maybe 90 feet, and then you get a guard sped up, and then they make a mistake. And then the thing that Lamont showed his overall defensive game to me. It was the deflections and creating and the strength to be able to have the body control to deflect one and then kind of gather himself and then go finish. How about the leave it pass that he had to Jackson Robinson streaking down the middle of the floor where Jackson dunks it?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
just beautiful highlights. But I'm telling you, the play that impressed me the most, and I'll have to find it, it was a possession early in the game where the ball goes all the way around the perimeter. You had 3 good closeouts, but Lamont gets beat a step. And there was so much separation. And the next thing you know, man, he just eats up the space. And I can't remember if it was Brandon Garrison or Andrew Carr that came over and helped as the low man there and is out and right there outside the backboard. And then they force what you have from there is an X out, and Jackson Robinson, I believe, got a deflection or got a hand on it, and I think it ended up being a turnover. But it was the way Lamont recovered defensively that a lot of guys probably think, I'm beat, I've got help behind me, and now I'll recover. No, he got back just because of effort and his strength and physicality alone and disrupted a drive that I thought he was beat on, and Kentucky was giving up a basket because the rotation was still good, but usually that's a pass out or something else that happens. But then there was an offensive play in the first half, and I'm trying to remember who went baseline, but it ended up being a one-handed drift pass to the corner, and Colin Chandler made an extra pass, and Kentucky knocked down a 3. I can't remember who it was. There's so many threes and so many plays, but it's just the things that you're seeing done on both ends of the floor. Obviously, they're not where they want to be when it matters. But I think if you ask Mark and he sits down and he's really honest with you and talking to you in a one-on-one setting, he's probably going to tell you, man, I'm okay with where we are right now because I like the way that they're establishing their identity kind of on both ends of the floor. And obviously the competition's going to get tougher, but Kentucky's going to get better. Like, last night's not as good as Kentucky's going to be. So they're going to continue to take steps and stack days as well.
Got a question for you. So what happens how many times this season are we going to leave a game where we say it just wasn't our night, where you go 6 for 30 from 3? How many times will that happen, and what is the counter to avoid that as a coach? Going, when you can just tell that your team, it's just not their night. It's hard to imagine that being the case because we kind of said that last year, although we saw what happens when it isn't their night. They get tossed in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But in a vacuum, like what is the counter to that, knowing that this is an identity, the team's identity is to launch early and often 30, 35, 40, 43s in a game if you're not hitting after seeing with your own 2 eyes?
When it comes to just having nights where you're 6 of 30, I don't think you have any. I just think that there's too many shooters on this team. I mean, when you're going across the list here, Jack, of guys that can take and make shots, whether it's Travis Perry, it's Jackson Robinson, it's Andrew Carr, I mean, it's Kobe Brea, like it's Kirk Krissa, like there's so many guys, Ainsley Almanor, does Trent Noah get minutes? You see a variety of guys that can take and make the 3. The way you overcome it is Kentucky has to stick to who it is. So if you're having a stretch where you're still 6 of 30, they don't look good. But you may finish with this team 11 of 35. So if you're 6 of 30, they have the capability of reeling off 5 in a row and getting to be 11 of 35 at the end of the game. So to me, it's not about having to do anything different, because that's where I think you get into trouble, where you're going to establish who you are. And I don't think you can drift or float away from that, because if you start to drift and float away, then you don't have consistency in really who you are. You got to lean into who you are and believe in it, and maybe tweak a minor thing here and there. So to me, Jack, it's if you're having a night where Kentucky is like 2 of 14 or 2 of 15 at the half, this team may end up knocking down 11, 12 threes, in the second half. Like, they have the capability to take and make a lot of them. So to me, it's just about sticking true to who you are, continue to shoot those threes, sprint to corners, pass out these double teams, and just make the right play. And I'm telling you, Mark Pope's never going to tell these guys to not take a three. And that's where the Ansley Almanors and these guys, I think, come into play, and Travis Perry. If there's a night where there's a guy not taking and making shots, you've got plenty of guys that can step in and take and make shots. This is a team that I don't think is going to be zoned a lot. And here's another reason why: their bigs pass the ball so well. Having bigs that can touch it in the middle of the floor and make reads and find open shooters. Jack, like I said, I don't know how much NBA potential and NBA star power is on this roster, but when it comes to basketball players and what they do, they all do one thing very well. A lot of them shoot it well, and I think that's going to carry Kentucky a lot this year, especially on that end of the floor.
Here is my counter to that potential circumstance. Bang. That sequence with Trent Noah coming in totally ice cold, didn't play at all in the entire first half, comes in 9 minutes into the second, at 10 minutes into the second, 9-ish, 8 minutes into the second half, and bangs 4 straight threes, and then talks about it after the game. Both Trent, the rest, Pope at the podium, Otega Owe, everybody involved talks about it and goes, yeah, what about it? That's a totally normal thing. And I'm not even saying it's going to be Trent, but I do want to talk about the moment with Trent, because I thought that was just, of many moments and highlights of the night, Trent coming in there and banging 4 straight threes was up there. But the instilling of confidence that Mark Pope has in this group, to have faith that a guy like Trent Noah, who ice cold hasn't played a minute, I think Mark Pope, unlike John Calipari, where there were a lot of times that he was just a ride or die. If DJ Wagner was hot or cold, like if DJ Wagner, I just got a notification that the USF coach just died. That's Amir Abdur-Rahim.
Really?
Yeah,
That'll definitely leave you speechless.
Is that real? Yeah, that was a really terrible transition, talking about a cool moment with Trent. But yeah, that's awful. Terrible to hear that. Prayers for everybody at South Florida and those involved. That's awful. I remember he was kind of loosely talked about as, one of the potential replacements for Cal very, very briefly. He's kind of one of the rising stars in coaching. So that's terrible. That's awful to hear. But talking to the guys after the game, talking about the confidence that they have in one another, and how Pope just says, I believe in you more than you believe in yourself as a shooter and as a basketball player. To enter the game and ice cold come in and make shots like that. I had that moment where I was thinking, Travis Perry may not play a ton, but there is going to be a moment this season where the guys that, the rotation guys just are not making the shots that you expect them to. Or the way that they have in the past. And Pope said, Pope goes deeper in his bench and says, Travis, go make a shot. Trent, go make us a shot. Ansley, go make us a shot. Whereas with Cal, if DJ wasn't hitting, it was, I believe in DJ to break through his slump, but not necessarily going to Joey Hart at the end of the bench and saying, Joey, let's go, buddy. It's your time to shine. There's just that different mindset where Pope just truly has undying trust in all 12 of his scholarship players to go make plays. every time you talk to a Trent Noah, every time you talk to one of the the other guys, Ainsley Almanor is like, bro, Pope makes me feel like I'm the best shooter to ever live. Like it's unbelievable how I just feel like I'm on top of the world being coached by this guy. I wonder how much that's going to come at come at play this season, where the team's not shooting the way you're expecting, and then it's Trent Noah coming in and banging a couple threes to change the trajectory of the end of the game.
You just got to have a spark, right? And that's that. The Kentucky has plenty of guys that can provide it, but man, what a moment! Seeing him go in and do his thing as a Kentucky kid, and a kid that almost didn't get here, right? Like that wouldn't be here right now, and he gets his moment in Rupp Arena, a place where he had already performed at a high level. And look, I can tell you firsthand how hard it is to prepare for Trent Noah. I mean, I had to do it last year, so he still had 30 on me. Luckily, we won the game, but man, Trent's another guy that can really take and make shots for Kentucky, Jack. But you're right. Last year there'd be a whole lot of the thing with Cal was let guys play through things, certain guys, and sometimes it comes back to bite you. But I don't think Mark Pope is going to have those moments where he's too stubborn to not try something. He's not going to second guess mixing things up defensively. He's not going to second guess turning and just getting a feel, maybe going, all right, Travis, it's your turn to go in, just to try to get a spark. And look, if those guys can defend and Kentucky can be a good team defense defending team, if you've got Lamont Butler on the floor disrupting the point guard, like the way Lamont guards, he's going to be able to take teams out of their rhythm alone, just by disrupting guard play. The way you've got Amari Williams on the interior who can do things. You've got, Brandon Garrison. Like there's guys, Otega Oweh. Like there's so many pieces that I think can defend, that if there is a guy that maybe you're looking at that's not the best defender, but he gives you so much offensively and the ability to make shots, if you're a good team, a team defensive team, then I think you can maybe get away with some areas of maybe sacrificing 4 or 5 minutes and trying something different. So I think that's the one thing, Jack, about Pope that I like the most, is he's never going to shy away from trying something. Like you can already tell just by talking to him that his mind's always working. I believe it was Chet White that posted a photo, I'm pretty sure, from the locker room, and he's on the dry erase board, and the board's covered with a scout. And it's Pope, and you can just see in his eyes when he's locked in. The look I'm talking about that he gave me and you when he was so attentively listening to our questions, just that look at us, the one that made me a little nervous. But the way he sees things, you can just tell his mind is constantly going. And how about this? I loved seeing his family seated right behind the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Like I love that they're right there, the fist bump picture between him and Leanne.
Cool. That's really cool.
That's a really cool thing that you can see that everybody's so connected here. And I just think there's a general excitement and joy to being the people leading Kentucky basketball.
So backstory on that Chet photo that you were talking about. I was down in where the snacks are getting a soda, where in the media room where Chet works, with his little photo setup and all that. I'm getting a soda. Chet's over there working. I go, Chet, my buddy, what's going on? Like we always do. Best dude in the world, by the way. Chet, there is no better human being than Chet White. He's over there. He goes, Jack, come here. I need your help. And I come over. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? And he has his glasses on and he's looking just like so intently. And he's zoomed in on that picture and he's looking at the whiteboard and he's going, if I post this picture, am I going to get fired? Is there anything on this photo that will get me fired? And like, we're looking super, super, super like seeing if we could read any of the specific words, because the angle was such a way where you can see there is writing, but it's just all the way to the side where you can't see that it says anything. So like both Chet and I are looking at the screen. I mean, just this far away from the screen, looking as closely as possible going, dude, I don't think there's anything on there. I would post it. I think that's a badass picture. I would post it, but it is tricky because there is writing there and it is Pope's game plan. So I understand your nerves. He was like, yeah, I think we're gonna roll with it. So I was like, hey, and then he posted it right afterward. I was like, hell yeah, Chet, that's my guy. But really, really cool picture there from many that he does. He's incredible at what he does. But I thought that was a really cool moment. Let's see, what can we any other well, I guess I do want to talk a little bit more about Trent's moment and just how cool it was to see a kid that did overcome so much. You talk to the people around his recruitment and, just his family and why he reopened his recruitment. Had a death in the family. And it was one of those deals where he was just like, the reality of when being so far away from family, when something like that happens to you and you're like, man, I don't want to be 7, 8 hours away. If something like this were to happen, I want to be close. Like I want to be I can get in my car at 4 o'clock in the morning and be there by 6. Like I want to be able to be within drive. So he makes that decision, admits that he was way behind. The speed of the game was way too fast for him, not making shots. Mark Pope kind of, again, instilling that confidence, goes on all these press conferences, radio shows, whatever, and says Trent Noah cannot miss anymore. He was stinking up the joint when he first got here. Now he's one of the best shooters on the team. And then in his first opportunity in front of BBN, where he made the run in the Sweet 16 championship game, for him to get that moment, man, where he comes in ice cold and drills 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, and to have that confidence afterward and just to be like, yeah, what about it? That's just kind of what we do. You ask Otega Owe. I said, what is it like to have a guy who's your 11th man come in ice cold and bang 4 straight threes? He was like, nothing. That's Trent. Like that's totally what we expect from him. Really cool moment. I like how right before his 4-3, they showed a dude with a Harlan County t-shirt on and was going crazy in the stands like, hell yeah, that's my boy Trent. And right after that, he hits his 4. So it's a really cool when Pope says that it matters to have these kids that wear Kentucky across their chest to be from the state. You kind of felt it in that moment of, all right, this isn't just for show. It does get a little bit more impactful and meaningful when you get a guy like Trent to come in off the bench and hit a couple shots and play as well as he did. So shout out Trent Noah, man. That was a blast.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really cool thing. And that's the kind of moment that early on you can kind of hang your hat on, right? Like that's the kind that instills confidence in you. It instills confidence in your coach and your teammates, and seeing it done in practice is really cool, but then seeing it carry over to a game, even bigger, Jack. And then, just back-to-back years of a 606 kid being on the Kentucky men's basketball roster. That's a really cool thing for me personally. I take a lot of pride in that, and knowing that those are 2 guys back where I'm from that are getting to or have lived out their dream at playing at the University of Kentucky. Like, man, that's an awesome thing for that part of the state. And I think long-term, Trent's going to have a big role in this program. His immediate role is what he just did last night. Take and make shots. It's the same role that Travis Perry's going to have. You can never have enough guys that can take and make shots. And Mark Pope has plenty of guys that can do that. And last night was just the first step in what we hope is the right direction.
Yeah, let's start wrap this thing up. Travis Ford is the why. How cool is it to see another in-state Madisonville legend making his return to Rupp Arena?
Yeah, it's just the whole feels right, like the nostalgia of just the Mark Pope era. Just it really feels like the 90s again, right? Like with all the faces coming around and just a total buy-in across eras of Kentucky basketball. That's what's going on right now. So really cool to see Travis back and things. And I mean, obviously, we always wondered whether he would be on the staff, if he would be one of those assistant coaches or some type of role within the program. But being the role that he has in BBN already, it's already cool enough just to see him back as the Y and the energy there as well. And I'm sure that building popped.
No, I wouldn't mind seeing him on the staff in some form or fashion as well. Great, great coach in his own right. 400+ wins as a head coach at the high major level. I mean, that's a dude that knows the game. So I think that'd be pretty darn cool to see come full circle. But just to have him back around the program, man, is really, really cool. Let's get out here. Expectations for Minnesota Mankato. What's the vibe going into this one? Do you expect a letdown? Do you expect them to somehow exceed what they were able to do against Kentucky Wesleyan? More of the same? What's the hope and expectation going into that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about 70-point wins, right? Like, I don't know if I'm ready to.
That's the floor now, baby. We got up to 80 plus.
Is this a name your score game, Jack? Because I'm definitely wanting to stay
absolutely
away from...
yeah, I'm never doing that ever again. So no, thank you.
No, honestly, what I'm looking for is that consistency. And I know I say that every preseason, and I say that early in the year, but honestly, as a coach, Jack, that's what you're looking for. And Mark Pope obviously found some things on film today that he probably is. That's probably what he led meetings with, was the areas that they didn't do well, because obviously they know that they did a number of things well. He's probably keyed in on some areas where they struggled, and whatever they view as areas like that they got to get better. That's probably the immediate focus going into game 2. It's not as much about what you did well. It's about, okay, we got to do this better. Maybe we got to do this area of the game better. But the way Kentucky plays offense, Jack, the way the way that they wedge, and the things that Mark Pope talks about, and the getting extra passes and touching the paint and hitting corners in transition. And I'm not sure teams manipulate and move help lines and feet better than what Kentucky is going to be able to do this year with their scheme offensively. Like, they'll get you shifted, and the next thing you know, you're cooked. And if you don't talk early, you're in a pickle here guarding this team. And obviously, where they get defensively, I think, is what's going to define how good they can be. So I think moving forward in game 2, we've talked a ton about offense right now. I think after that second exhibition, we need to talk a little bit more about defense, because then we've got 2 games to kind of digest and look at and peel apart. But that end of the floor, I'm still seeing the foundations of what can be a team that was better than what we saw last year on the defensive end. But I'm also seeing an offensive team, Jack, that I think is just going to be one of the best in college basketball when it comes to shooting the three, making the extra pass, touching the paint, spreading the floor, and putting instant pressure on you on the offensive end.
On that note, Pope was asked about what, that he wanted to get exposed a little bit with the first game. What is exposed in a 71-point win? He said, I felt like we were dialed in for most of the game. We had a couple of little spaces where we kind of lost ourselves. We were exposed on the glass a little bit with a team that really shoots a lot of balls, and they end up being long rebounds. And so we were a little exposed there a little bit, where we can individually and collectively, we can see that on film. So not a whole lot. Probably really, really nitpicky in a game where they did win the rebounding battle 43-31. So it's not like they got their asses kicked on the glass, but something to build on.
And I think they're going to be a good rebounding team too. I do. And if you are a good rebounding team, and I think that obviously carries over to your defensive numbers as well, because you're cleaning up possessions. And when you shoot the ball as well as Kentucky does, more possessions you can get and more shots on the rim, I think it bodes well for you. It bodes well for anyone, but it certainly bodes well for a team like Kentucky that can shoot it the way they do.
Sure does. This was a blast. Not often we get to break down 71-point wins. So thank you to Mark Pope for that. That was a hell of a time. We expect a whole lot more of that here in the next couple of weeks and couple years. Let's just keep this thing rolling forever. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully more where that comes from. Until then, until our next exhibition matchup, Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money and 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubblue.com. clubblue.nil.com. You get to pick which sport you want to support. When you sign up, choose your sport and support with Club Blue. And look, just being totally honest, Club Blue is the lifeline. It's the lifeblood of Kentucky basketball. Everything will be going through them moving forward. If you want this program to be successful, if you want to bring in the 5 stars to kind of continue to run this system and, add NBA talent on top of how beautiful that masterpiece was, Club Blue is the answer for a lot of those. So make sure you go do it. Like, let's be all in with this. clubblue.nil.com for all of your NIL and collective needs. They have everything that you need right there. So make sure you go subscribe to them and the men's basketball program so we can continue to bring 5 stars in. So Sean, this was an absolute blast, man. You can see where you can find Sean's work as always, but season coming up, high school basketball season coming up. I'm sure you are absolutely thrilled to make that happen. How are we feeling? How are we feeling going into the year?
We're feeling good, honestly. Like you're in that grind now. I think we're 5 practices in, I believe is what we're on now officially. So things are coming together. Still got about 6 weeks until we play, but plenty of Kentucky basketball between now and then, though, to kind of get me ready.
And we'll do kind of what we do during the season. We'll go the day after game. So going to be a little bit of a break until that Minnesota Mankato game. So that's Tuesday night. So we'll be back Wednesday night for another jam-packed Sources Say podcast. We will see you then.